Man, things just keep getting better and better. First, we hear that China and Russia are becoming buddy-buddy talking about a new world order. And then we see UN diplomats turn their backs on U.S. ambassadors after U.S. vetoes a ceasefire, which, I gotta be honest, I don't want this war. I don't want this war, but I want you to understand what the UN is getting ready to do. So let's take a look real quick.
Without distinction of any kind. As I said yesterday.
All right, so there you have it. The U.S. and Israel are going to start to lose support. And Russia, China, Turkey, Iran, Syria, etc., they're going to be getting more support. And because of that, now things start to go pretty bad for us. It says in the scripture very clearly that power is given over to this beast. Well, what is the beast? The beast is the 10 nation kingdoms that are going to rise up and start to cause a whole lot of trouble here. And that's what's happening right now, folks. Okay? It's very upsetting to see this stuff, but, well, it's right on time, isn't it? Yes, it is. So the UN, I believe they were formed right around 1948. They knew exactly where all this was going to lead. They have pushed a lot of the things that people pin on the Jewish people, and they've set quite the trap. They've set quite the trap. It's very hard to get people to understand this because people see Zionism and they see all the evil stuff that's come from it, and it starts to get really hard to try and tell people, hey, there's a difference between these people, and people don't care. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. So God is letting this happen. That's what's very important for people to understand, is that because the world has largely rejected him, he's going to give the world exactly what they want. And because he's the truth, and they have rejected the truth, they're going to be given over to the lie. That's how this works. So we're going to have a whole bunch of conflict and a big old mess, and then all of a sudden everybody's going to be very tired of Abrahamic religion. They're going to be fed up with Christianity, with Muslims, and they're going to be fed up with Jews, Judaism, and the Jews, period. They're going to be ripe for this new world order and a new religion, which, by the way, is going to be a man-centric religion where we can ascend up to godhood and we need to do this and that and blah, 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 blah. It's basically the original lie that the serpent told Eve, oh, if you eat of it, you won't die. You'll be as gods, knowing good and evil. So if you really look at the New Age spiritual movement, that's what it is. And that's where all of this is leading to. That's why the video In Shadow, yes, I've used clips of it to try to show people things going on. But if you get to the end of that video, you see what they have in mind. They have humanity ascending up to godhood. This whole Darwin evolution stuff, if you really undress it and look at it, it's not just attacking God. What it's doing is it's raising man up. It's saying, hey, we evolved up to this point, and we can evolve even further. But before we can do that, we got to shrug off all this old-timey garbage and you know, all this tradition that's just held us down, because look what it's done to our world. So, yeah. That's how this goes, folks. It should be very obvious for Christians to see right through it. Other people, they seem to struggle with it. I would say it doesn't make sense to me, but it does, because if you reject God, he's not going to let you see it. He's going to give you over, because the devil's got a million other answers, right? He's got a thousand half-truths, right? That's putting it lightly. He's got many half-truths. There's one objective truth, and then there's everything else. This is why Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Narrow is the path, because that narrowness is Christ, and everything else is the broad path that leads into destruction. You can go back and look at eugenicists and how evil they are and how racist it is. You can look at Margaret Sanger And the fact that those people wanted brown folks to just abort their babies and try to cull their population because they see them as an evolutionary throwback. You'll notice a lot of the white supremacists, especially the black pillars, think the same way. This is very dangerous stuff. It says in the last days, nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. The interesting thing about the word nation is that if you look it up in the original Hebrew and Greek, it means race. Go ahead and look it up real quick, and then tell me that's not what's been happening. There's a reason why they've pumped all these migrants into these traditionally white Christian nations, by the way. Because these people are very pro, quote-unquote, Palestine. They're very anti-Christian. And people are so fed up with Zionism that they're willing to let that happen, not knowing that, there's going to be a mosque every half a block with 50 loudspeakers everywhere playing from 4 a.m. until, nighttime. Screaming prayer out to the world, and they're going to be covering your kids in a hijab. So if that's what you want, you can go follow those people. They're going to want you to be completely fed up with all that stuff. They're just going to use these Muslim people, and they're just going to use the Jews and Christianity and everything to make it look as bad as possible, and they're going to collapse it. And then they're going to present the solution. You're going to have digital currency, which is already on its way. You're not going to buy or sell unless you're all about that life. Okay, if you claim Christ, they're going to kill you. I don't care who you claim. If you don't go along with what they're doing and you don't take that mark, you're going to die. They're going to put you to death. Why? Well, because the world is going to be in such turmoil. It's going to be so terrible. So many people are going to die and so many bad things are going to happen that people are just going to be scrambling for whatever solution they can. And they're going to be like, look, this other way didn't work. It didn't work. Never mind the fact that nobody really listened to what Jesus said anyways. And you had a million different denominations trying to do it their own way. And you had the Roman pagan church doing it their way, right? Never mind that. Let's just throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's time to have a new world order now. That's what this is, folks. This is the new world order rising. And they knew what they were going to be doing a long time ago. They've had it planned out the entire time. If you don't believe that, you can go read a book by Albert Pike called Morals and Dogma. I'm pretty sure you can find that over on Amazon. They don't hide their literature. It's right there for you to read. So go find out how they planned out 3 world wars in order to bring the world to what they wanted. Problem, reaction, solution, Hegelian dialectic, something I've warned about over and over and over again.
The future world war, the peace conference, where, with the help of England, a free and Jewish Palestine will be created. How did they know about a future world war ahead of time? Well, interestingly, Albert Pike had talked about 3 future world wars way back in 1871. He wrote a letter to Giuseppe Mazzini, dated 15th of August, whereby he claimed he had received a vision. In that vision, he had been told of 3 world wars that were to come. Each of them would work on the Hegelian principle, where they would clash 2 opposing ideologies together to create a specific outcome that would further the plans for a new world order. It should, however, be noted that the existence of this letter is now denied, and there is no hard and fast evidence that it actually exists.
So either you accept Jesus Christ as Lord, and you avoid this garbage by either being raptured or killed as a testimony, or you're going to be given over to this completely. Atheism's not going to last. It's just not. I mean, Carl Sagan, I've told this story before, how I was a big fan of Carl Sagan, and I was a fan of the Four Horsemen, right? Hitchens and Dawkins and all those guys. I thought I was so smart listening to everything they say, never mind that they were controlled opposition, either deceived and deceiving or willfully deceiving other people. But Carl Sagan said something that really stood out to me once I was saved. He said, it takes a textbook of information just to digest an apple. And how anybody can come to that conclusion and see that it's intelligent and that it's a language and that it's something that it's a formula that had to be engineered and then should just toss up their hands and say, there's no God, nobody programmed anything, is insanity. It's completely insane. DNA is a language. We can see that it's a language. So if it's a language, then somebody had to create it, right? Well, take a look at your computer. Just take a good look at it. Or your phone, whatever you happen to be watching. Did that self-assemble? Nope. Somebody had to create it, didn't they? So you see how Satan's got all these answers for people, and they're going to sound really good. People are going to be like, yeah, that makes sense. That makes total sense, because he seeks to be like the Most High God. He seeks to be as God, and he's going to give you all the lies you want. And like I said, if you reject the truth, God is going to give you over to this crap. This is why I've been screaming from the rooftops for years, not to fall for this crap. And now here they are, about to turn that global paradigm right upside down on its head. The beast is rising out of the sea. It's being given power. And by the way, when scriptures say sea, it usually means nations. So the beast is rising up out of the nations, and it's going to start causing a whole mess of trouble. I hope you guys can see this now, because I don't know how many more of these uploads I'm going to be able to do before everything falls apart, okay? It should be very clear to people that there was an agenda for a long time. Okay? I've showed people how Satan put his religion here. He put his unholy trinity here ahead of God, with all these pagan gods that basically just lead back to him, and they lead back to the original Babylonian kingdom of Nimrod, Semiramis, and Tammuz. I showed everybody how Mother Mary, quote unquote, is basically Semiramis or Asherah, the old pagan god Mother Earth. I showed you Pangaea, or Pangea as they call it, the pre-flood world before it broke up, and what it looked like. Pan is another name for Satan, guys. It's funny, the lore around Pan is that he has pipes. Who was created with their pipes in heaven and was perfect? Who was the god, or quote unquote, the angel of music? Lucifer. Who is Pan? Lucifer, one of his many names. Gaia is Mother Earth. Isn't that nice that the old Earth was Pangaea? Isn't that convenient? And it's interesting that EverQuest has the Seder, because if you take a look at the Seder reminds me an awful lot of Pan, who was a quote-unquote god in the ancient world that was denoted with pedophilia and bestiality. And if you take a look at the statues of Pan, well, they kind of speak for themselves, don't they? He's playing his little pipes. He's just playing the pipes, you see, and he's luring, and he's doing his thing, right? Now, I don't know if the Pied Piper is connected to that. Probably. But it's interesting, and it's horrifying at the same time to think about Peter Pan. Here you have a grown man who shows up at a child's window and wants to take them to a place where they never grow older. Oh. So that story looks nasty. Now, Pinocchio is another story that has been told for a long time about Geppetto. Just dissect that name. And if you take a look at the Pinocchio story and what happens to the boys, you start to see some very uncomfortable things, folks. Michael Jackson allegations. I didn't want to believe that for a long time, and I'm not gonna sling any way or the other any mud or anything, but I'm just gonna say that being connected to Pan and Neverland and all that is not a good look. And if you take a look at Michael Jackson's album covers and you understand Masonic symbolism, again, not a good look. So these things, they're hidden, but they're hidden in plain sight. And then God flooded it and broke up everything. The waters didn't just come from above. The fountains of the deep opened up. And the world was completely displaced. Everything was moved, and it slowed Satan down. And then we have the Tower of Babel story, where God is like, guys, spread out. I don't want you concentrated. And they say, let's be concentrated, so that we can make a name for ourselves, and we can be as gods. And Satan was behind that crap too. God came down and scattered their language. And instead of fighting, because we couldn't understand each other, which would have happened, we all just took off. He had to force that to happen. And now you see the devil is trying to bring the world back under one banner again. This is not a game, folks, and you don't have very long to get saved. God bless, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next video.